Welcome everyone to the Euro Trade. We have Neuro Wednesdays today. I have Jerome D with me. Jerome, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Coach Deeyana. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Doing amazing. Neuro Wednesday. Sun is outside, like last week. So, great day. How's your week been going so far? How's the new house?
The new house is amazing. We are still unboxing, obviously, because we moved our entire life. We have a little housewarming party on Saturday, so we need to get everything ready. So it's a little stressful, but it's fine. Now, in other news, I just wanted to say that last night an email came through, so I am getting transferred back to live. That didn't take long. It was what, 2.5 months? So that's some good news.
Wow,
So I'm gonna have to wait for that. I am on
beautiful.
fast markets today and on lunchbox trading as well. But we're gonna be doing a combine whilst we wait for that transfer, and I'm gonna be starting with about 19K in there after taking out. I think it was about 15K that I took out. So it's a pretty decent start to my Wednesday. But let's get stuck into the Neuro Wednesdays. Now, yesterday we did have somebody asking what do they do with rage after losing accounts, and I think that was pretty interesting. So before we kind of crack on, is there anything that you can advise for people who experience rage after losing a trade?
Mm, Thank you. So, what is rage? Um, is it frustration? Is it like what is rage? It could be like a lot of things, but as I understand it, somebody blew their account and they felt bad. Is that correct?
I don't think they blew an account. I think they get angry every time their trade doesn't work out. And to me,
Okay.
it's interesting. It's like, what are you getting angry at? Maybe they need to figure that out. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because
Okay.
I have seen a couple of people tell me that. They're like, oh, I get really angry after I lose a trade. And I'm like, why? They don't even know you exist. Like, what are you getting angry at yourself? Or the
Yeah.
market, like what is the possible cause behind that? Is it our
Yeah. Thank you for
egos?
that.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. Not for all the people, but the first thing that comes up to my mind is the fear of being wrong. And some people have a need of proving themselves, not others, but like in trading, it's going to be towards themselves, ourselves. But in real life, external life, trading is real life, but you got my point.
Yeah.
We're going
Yeah.
to need to prove it to others. So within trading, we often at some point we experience this whether it's light or intense, but some people really need this intensely and on a daily basis like you explained, and they need to be right to prove themselves they are good at something. Unfortunately, some people had a path or a certain journey in their lives, perhaps during their childhood or at work, during work environment. They've been like lowered, reduced self-esteem. They don't trust themselves that much, and so trading is a way of like proving yourself you are worth something. And you put some efforts in, you put mental effort, you put time effort, you put money effort, and it doesn't pay off. And so this leads to strong, intense frustration. This lowers and reduces even more your self-esteem, self-trust, and you get into a cycle of, yeah, they were all right. You know, the teacher at school that told me I wouldn't be nothing in life, like she was right. Like you start thinking like that, and then you start feeding these thoughts, and whatever you feed you become, right? You start to understand that through Neuro Wednesdays lessons. So when you understand that, where that comes from, you can reshift it.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Steinbarger yesterday, he was invited on TopstepTV with Anne Marie. Amazing segment as
Yeah.
always, and he spoke a lot of things we shared here, right? About
Mm-hmm.
awareness, and he said the first step is awareness, being aware, identifying what's wrong and what's good as well. And so once you understand what you do and why you do it, whether it's bad or good, then you can sort of choose your reaction through impulses. And that's why we are here today. So, yeah, hope it helped. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, it's just somebody asked me yesterday, and I promised that I'm going to ask you today. So thank you for that. All right, let's crack on. What are we talking about today? Stress. Yes.
Yes, today I choose the topic of stress. We're gonna share about stress. So I'm gonna emphasize it a bit more around health and stress in general. But of course, everything here applies to trading. And I mean, we've been talking about stress a lot of times. So the goal is not to speak only about a trade, but your personal and professional life stress impact your trading. So once you understand that as well, once you understand awareness towards stress, how to understand your stress, what is stress, how do we manage it, how do we react from it, etc., then you can like reduce this stress bubble in your life. And when you are behind the charts, you don't have this stress underlying flow biasing, jeopardizing your execution and your ability to trade well, right? Um, so, what do you think about stress?
Yeah, stress is terrible. I think most people who experience stress during trading are probably struggling with lack of confidence, fear, doubt. But one thing is for sure, whenever I'm stressed out, it never leads to good trading decisions. Never. It's always like rushed. And, at this point, I can recognize it. But when I was a novice trader many moons ago, I suffered from it a lot. I had a moment where I blew up one of the accounts, one of my first accounts that I had. And for the next 3 months, whenever I was going to put a trade, my hand was like shaking over the mouse. That's not a good state to be in. It's why I started going to the gym, why I started on a journey to find out what happens to me during those times. And I think at this point, unless we're talking extreme situations, I'm fairly adept at recognizing when I'm not supposed to be trading. So on days when I have a lot of things happening in my life and I feel like I'm not in the right state of mind, I will first do an emotional checklist. What is irking me? How do I feel? Am I feeling calm? Am I feeling awake? Did I sleep well enough? That's the first step of your plan. It's not, oh, let's just sit and trade. Rah! That kind of, rushed feeling where you're feeling the urge to trade. Maybe you have a new XFA. Maybe you've reached a big goal by reaching the XFA stage and you have the urge to trade. But that part is like a positive effect in everything else when you reach a goal, apart from trading. So whenever you reach a goal, your dopamine levels rise and you feel nice and floaty. You're like, oh wow, I've reached this big milestone that I've been dreaming of and now it's here. Unfortunately, that kicks up the production and motivation feelings, productivity and motivation feelings in you. What does that spell for the trader? Overtrading, urge to do the first trade in the big XFA. And that's when we see people opening up 10 lots as soon as Globex opens, first day of XFA, and then disaster ensues. Then they go through a dopamine crash and they just add on to the stress. But for me at this point, these are not milestones, these are just things that I've done before. So they don't carry as much emotional weight, if any, right? And I think that generally helps. Just being emotionally resilient, aware, and stable, and knowing the days when you are okay to trade by doing the emotional checklist and doing the day and then scanning yourself to the point on the days when you're not ready to trade and you feel a bit off. Maybe you're sick, maybe you had an argument with your spouse or your partner. Maybe, like for me, I had the big house move. It's very stressful. It's the most stressful thing you can do. But throughout all of that, on days when I didn't feel like I wanted to trade, I didn't trade. And in fact, if I could, I would show you my Fridays. On most Fridays, I actually didn't trade because I had so much stuff to do over the weekend. And I would come to my charts and go, you know what? I actually had a decent week. I'm just going to walk away. So that self-regulation has to be a part of your plan. Am I right to think that? I mean, it's worked for me, but it might not work for everyone.
I mean, thank you for sharing completely. So basically, you have a pre-session routine,
Yeah.
an in-session routine, and a post-session routine. And on top of that, you got like an inner sensor telling you green, you're ready to trade, red, you don't trade today.
Yeah.
And that's how you get transferred back to life in 2 months, like
Yes,
consistency,
exactly.
patience, discipline, not pushing the gears too fast, slow and steady, yet fast enough. Beautiful,
We
beautiful.
have Jim Grady saying, I never experience rage. I just punch a monitor a few times and throw it out the window. Very relaxing.
I agree. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, basically stress. So stress, we're not gonna go on the biological and cellular level, but stress is a whole path, is a whole biological reaction chain, okay, and affect cells. And there's different types of stress. Stress is not like mental; it's really physiological, and it's not just a feeling; it's a full body. And after being physiological, it becomes neurochemical. Okay, so it's a state that changes how you see, how you think, feel, and act, because it changes the the state of your body, whether the sympathetic or parasympathetic system is in control. And we're going to go through that today. So when you have acute stress, so you have basically two types of stress on a global scale, not on a micro or nano scale. You have acute and chronic stress, right? So acute stress is a cortisol spike and norepinephrine. So this is adrenaline activation. Okay, so this is our fight or flight survival system. Okay, we need it. This is a system we need. The thing is, a brain under stress prioritizes safety over strategy. So in the brain, we call these beta plus waves. Okay, beta plus brain waves. And so basically, we need them when we are in danger, for example. But if you are in acute stress every day, this leads to chronic stress. Then you have this state on a daily basis, which leads to overwhelming and has consequences. So basically, about trading, most bad trades happen in this state. And you said it, you can identify how and when you are stressed and how much, let's say, you are stressed. And when your threshold is reached, you're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not touching the keyboard. And and today's session is directed towards the people who can't do what you can, but yet it will still help you. But the goal of today is doing what Coach Deeyana is able to do and just shared, being to have your scale and identify when you are green, when you're red, and just step out when you're red and step in when you're green. So stress has a huge health cost, much bigger than what you think. And we say that it's the soil where disease takes root. Okay, stress is not a disease, it's not a syndrome, but it leads to a lot of disease and syndromes. Okay, every time you feel stressed, your body activates the hypothalamus, hypophyse, and adrenal glands axis. So this leads to cortisol, adrenaline, blood pressure, heart rate, inflammation. All of these are increased. Okay, and so when you are in chronic stress, this leads to a disruption of the whole mental and physical physiology. Okay, so this disturbs your immune system, immune response, hormonal balance. It can impact digestion, sleep cycles, cellular repair as well. And so basically, you get neuroinflammation, and this can lead to mental health, not mental, like neurological disease. Okay. But basically, without having and before having a neurological disease, which you would not have 100% of the time you have chronic stress, okay, don't freak out. You will have at least anxiety, brain fog, and burnout. And I bet a lot of people here listening um, or during the replay, they will resonate with that, because when you feel anxiety, when you feel fatigue, and we'll speak about this fatigue, which is emotional fatigue, fatigue that sleep can't fix. This is due to stress, and especially chronic stress. So have you ever experienced chronic stress, Coach Diana?
I don't
Or
think
acute
so, because
stress, intense acute stress?
I'm generally a pretty relaxed person, and I think it comes from just my background because not to go too deep into it, but I am from former Yugoslavia. So when I was 11 years old, we started having the civil wars. Now, that was probably the closest that I came to acute stress, just constantly under stress because of the global political situation and the possibility of wars. And that didn't really end for 9 years. So that was the closest thing that I would say that I came to constant stressful states, because you're not even worried about your everyday life. You're worried whether tomorrow a bomb is going to fall on you. It's like it's a different type of stress. And I think because of that experience, everything that came after once I was an adult paled in comparison. And that made me more resilient. It was hugely traumatic whilst it was happening, obviously, but I think it made me so resilient that unless it's like a life or death situation, I can generally deal pretty well, and I don't experience the stress to the same level. It's why people think I'm a bit of a psychopath, because sometimes things are just falling apart everywhere around us, and D is just going, it's fine. Be okay. And people are like, how are you not reacting to this? And I'm like, it's okay. It's just like, whatever's happening, whether it's money, whether it's somebody breaking up with someone, it's like you'll live, you'll be okay. But obviously every so often there is a stressful moment that will maybe make me a little bit more annoyed than I normally would be. And at that point is where the self-regulation has to come in for me personally. But I am very aware when something is not right, and I actively run away from the environments that would cause me stress unnecessarily. That includes toxic people around me. It includes people who are a little bit lost in life and they are looking for guidance, and then they call it friendship. So you go out with a friend, for example, and you think you're great friends, and then they just pour all of their stuff on you. Now I can listen, when it's necessary, when people are going through big life changes. But I've had some friends from like my old life, like musicians and stuff, their life is a complete mess all the time. And it became quite obvious to me that I was heading in a different direction. And when I'm sitting down for dinner with a friend, we want to enjoy ourselves and we want to let go of the stress rather than constantly obsess over it. So over the years, I was very careful to maybe move away from people who are doing the dumping on other people constantly. And I think I'm a big believer in protecting your spiritual environment in that way. I know that I'm pretty driven, I'm very ambitious, I've done pretty well in life, but I also think that a part of the reason why I've done that is because I like to surround myself with people who are generally positive. They have a goal in life, and they're not thinking that a friendship is all about moaning to other people about your problems. Like if you have that kind of a problem, go to a therapist. And then if you suggest that, they'll be like, no, I'm not going to go to a therapist. And I'm like, but you're using your friends to effectively just offload any frustrations that you have. And once they're done, they're like, oh, I feel lighter. And you're just sitting there going, yeah, but I want to go dig a hole and, hide myself. But yeah, I may be a little bit different from most people in that regard, where I am aware of stress. I know what causes it for me, and I'm careful to protect my spiritual environment. I think that's a good word for it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, for me, stress and many other things are like energy. It's like emotion, and you described it perfectly. It's like somebody's transferring you the bad energy, and it's
Yeah,
like,
the bad
I feel
energy.
better, and you're like, yeah, now
Yeah.
I got it. I feel bad,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so yeah, of course, you protect yourself, and yeah, completely understandable. But most people, they don't do this again, and
Yeah.
they just They just leave the stress, right? They don't absorb it. They react through it, from it, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in today's modern life, and like, of course, stress has been like forever, right? But with technology and development of society and social networks, all that, it's really become a hype, right? Like being stressed is like normal, right? It's really becoming something normal, which is not normal. Like having rushed mornings, digital overload, like spending hours a day scrolling, having a poor
Let's
sleep
let's
quality.
let's touch upon the digital overload part, because for me, I actually find shorts, reels, TikToks, all of that, I find them irking, and I can't do it. So, a few years ago when they started happening, I found myself down the rabbit hole of YouTube Shorts, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? I just spent like 3 hours down the YouTube tunnel of doom, just scrolling through random videos that don't interest me or nothing. And then I made a conscious decision to not do that. So if I'm gonna doom scroll, I'm going to designate like sort of like maybe 15 minutes. But then over time, when I was like running away from all of that content, I actually got to a point where I start to scroll and then I go, oh God, this feels horrible. Like you're being bombarded by tiny bits of random information, and I don't like what it does to my brain. So I actually switch it off actively, and I made a conscious effort to do that. So what is your thought? What the current digital overload is doing to people? Is it impacting negatively on the rest of their life, including trading, because they want that instant gratification and constant change? How do you feel about it?
Oh well, yeah, we spoke about it. I think during the first or if not second session of Neuro Wednesdays. Uh, there's a whole business about attention. So attention is a brain skill. Okay, in neuroscience school or med school, we get taught that like it's a brain skill, attention, intention, or brain skills, so you can develop them. And there's a business around the mind, what we call the mind hype, and especially attention. So you have big companies such as Hermes, for example, or Louis Vuitton, or many big houses in design, but not only, and many websites and social networks. Okay, they hired neuroscientists to understand n- how they can do what we call today neuromarketing. Okay, how they can neuromarket stuff. And so it became a whole business. They studied what we look, how long we look at things, why we look at things, what we like. They gather and aggregate data, and then they send to you other things. So basically, they cultivate a cycle of dopamine craving and reward cycle circuit, right? And so this leads to compulsive behavior and addiction. And so you get addicted to scrolling. How many people here check their phone within the first 1 or 2 minutes once they wake up? And
Good question. Let's hear
for
it,
how
chat.
long? Sorry?
I said, let's hear it, chat. How many of
Yeah.
you check your phone upon waking within the first two
And how
minutes?
long do you check it for? Some people it's like couple of minutes, some people it's like none, some people it's like for half an hour, for example, or an hour or whatnot. And basically, you wake up, your body has been sleeping and brain during a certain state for certain time. You wake up, and the first thing you put and you regulate your brain and body with is like digital information, notifications, dopamine, stress, things like that. And so you start your day. This is really important to understand. So every day we have a quota, okay, a certain amount of dopamine to fill our brain with. And so basically, scrolling, playing games, smoking, drinking, drugs, gambling, all these activities that leads to the reward circuit stimulation and dopamine craving behaviors, they lead to feel this dopamine. Okay, and so basically, when you wake up, uh, if you feel the daily dopamine sort of level you need within 2 hours, guess what? Your brain is gonna tell you, "Oh yeah, I'm done. I don't need any more dopamine for the day." So how do you gonna feel? How are you gonna feel? You're gonna feel down because your
Yeah,
brain is
well,
not gonna produce more dopamine. It's not gonna produce more serotonin. It's gonna say, "I had enough." So basically, once you don't produce for a certain time, it's gonna deplete, and then you're gonna feel like not depressed, but bad mood. Like
mm,
heavy. And so that's where the bad loop starts. And you need to understand all these things. So precisely
so,
for digital overloads, we've noticed that a lot on children. So a lot
oh,
of
really?
children that have ADHD. I work with some people who work precisely in pediatrics, so with children at school, and in neuropediatric sort of structures. And so it's horrible. More than 64% of schools of children at schools have mental health issues, like they think about taking their lives away, they think about like crazy things, and it's
And
horrible. And this is
how old? How old are these children?
uh, 11 to 16.
Wow. Wow.
And social
Yeah.
networks, shame, like some things happen at school. There's 10 people start to film somebody getting bullied, for example, and then it's social shame. And social shame can hurt a lot, and way more than what we think on a 13 years old child, right? And yeah, there's crazy things happening. And so it doesn't only impact us as adults, but also children, unfortunately.
Wow. So what are your thoughts when somebody, because I see some people in the chat, they say they wake up and they check the markets. Would that be them seeking dopamine, or can that be a part of your plan? Because personally, I don't look at charts as soon as I wake up. I wake up, I make coffee. Now I have a very nice place to get outside. So I just sit there, take in a little bit of the scenery, and I get myself ready. Like the charts are something that I look at once I'm ready to work, but I usually have at least 45 minutes before I'm at the computer. I might check my phone for Slack messages, but that's kind of because I'm working with people who are obviously over in the States, so they sometimes send me messages when I'm asleep, so I need to kind of check up on the day and stuff, but I don't think that's the same. I usually give myself 45 minutes before I sit down to stare at the charts. So staring at the charts at the beginning of your day, as soon as you wake up, is that your brain still seeking dopamine, or is it getting ready for the day? Let's debate.
Great question. So if you have a trade overnight and you check it, then yeah, you're checking your trade. If you don't
Yeah.
have a trade on and you're not like about to trade, then yes, it's completely addiction. Like, or
Uh-huh.
I mean, if it's not, for instance, I check the chart multiple times a day, but it's for
Mm.
checking the chart, okay, to see what's going on. I just open it, I see if there was a huge candle, check if there was a tape bomb. It's my way to keep track of what's happening in the industry. But I'm not checking the chart just to check the chart, right? I'm not
Mm.
like a zombie behind the chart, like, oh yeah, it's pumping, it's dumping, whatever is happening, right?
I'm
So
not in. I'm not in. I must
yeah,
get in.
exactly. And so yeah, I mean, if you check the chart once you wake up, it's the same way as checking your social network notification. It's just we are traders, and so that's what we check. But if you don't have a trade on, uh, like yeah, it's
It's
englobed
addiction.
in
Yeah.
it what we described. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Yeah. JJFX says one YOLO and you will be rich.
Yeah, and
He's
one YOLO
probably
and you will be poor as well. So
yes, exactly. That's a bigger problem. Yeah, that's funny.
exactly. So
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, in caregiving, like for caregiving or financial pressure or lack of boundaries as well, some people loneliness can hurt. uh, these lead to high stress, okay? And some people, I've met a lot of people, okay? You've mentioned your past, and I've met a lot of patients who are like from Eastern countries, like Russia, for
Mhm.
example, and they say, "Oh, in our country, we don't have depression. You drink vodka and you recover depression." And yeah, the mindset is here, but remember, I told you, stress is physiological. Like it's something happening on the cellular level. Okay, so whoever you are, whatever you think, you experience stress. Okay, nobody doesn't experience stress. We all regulate stress, and you explained it perfectly. With your past experiences, you have established a sort of baseline that now regulates your reaction to stressors, and we'll speak about stressors later. But now when you have stressors, stressing events or triggers in your life, you're like, oh yeah, it's triggering stress, I'm out, I'm stepping back, because you have this, and your brain and psyche kind of compare it to what happened in your past, and you're like, yeah, that's nothing, because
Yeah.
you experienced that. But somebody who didn't has the same system but with different baselines.
Mhm.
And so that is why
So can we train that? Can we train ourselves to not react to certain
yeah,
situations? Yeah.
completely, yeah, yeah. That's yeah, we're going to speak about it today. So we live in a sympathetic dominant world, okay, or always fight flight, fight flight, fight flight, always on. And we already said that we need this in survival. If you get attacked by a lion in the street, you're going to need to run, right, not freeze. But most of the time we don't need this mood, right, this state. So the
Depends.
body was
Sheep go into a freeze, don't they? I'm a bit scared with the new because we have cows here. They don't really care about dogs. They're quite curious. But I know that sheep have the freeze response, and right now it's lambing season, so we haven't actually seen any. But I'm just like a bit scared how the sheep are going to react to my crazy dogs. So we may have to keep them away because I'm just afraid that they're going to bark and the sheep is just going to go just tip over. I don't want troubles with the farmer next door.
these ships are hilarious.
Yeah,
They are so funny.
yeah,
And so yeah, the body was never designed to live under threat, nor the brain 12 hours a day, right? It's
yeah.
like hitting the gas on a car at 200 kilometers per hour, like 130 miles per hour. And once it's going to break, at some point it's going to break. So the result is you have accelerated or premature aging, you have CV, cardiovascular strain, suppressed immune function, emotional exhaustion. So what we call emotional exhaustion is fatigue that sleep can't fix. Like so many people, they say, "Oh, I sleep 8 hours every day. I go I go at bed like at like 10:30, have my 8 hours, but I can't like wake up recovered. I can't wake up like feeling I had my full sleep. Why is that?" And this is because of chronic stress. You can feel anxiety, panic, digestive issues, overeating or undereating as well is because of chronic stress, chronic inflammation, mental fog. Um, so basically, we talked about it and we mentioned it again. Most of the people, okay, they think when they experience a bad event, stressful event, unpleasant, uncomfortable event, they need to reset. They need to rest. Okay. How many of you, when you have a fight with your partner or a relative, you go into your bed, you're like a larva and you just sleep? How many of you do that? How many of you escape? How many of you do this eviction pattern, right? uh, this is resetting, and this is like a lot of people do that, and we've all done that at some point in our lives, right? Because we think resting, we think resetting is what's going to regenerate us, but it's not. uh, it's recovering, it's regulating that will lead to recovery. Okay, and so it's from switching from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic system. So instead of having a fast heart rate, you slower the heart rate, you rebuild cells on a longer time window. Of course, you restore digestion, you can reduce and calm inflammation, and you can do this like through breath work, visualization, grounding techniques, or identity anchoring, all things we've gone through together, right? There's other things as well, but these are the mental things you can do. You can practice sport, for example. Okay, you can go to the gym, hit the gym, practice any physical activity that will reduce cortisol, increase testosterone, and reduce stress. These are inner tools, inner techniques we are sharing. Today is not physical Wednesday, it's neuro Wednesday. Okay, it's about what's happening here, and these help restore the healing state of your body.
Yesterday was the diet Wednesday because I kind of veered off into keto, and then people started asking questions, and we had a whole, I think, I don't know, 15 minutes of me talking about how to enter ketosis the right way with as least pain as possible. So, wealth of information on your trade here.
Thank you. So that was Diet Tuesday.
Yes, Diet Tuesday, yeah. Nutrition Tuesday. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, so basically, if you want, like, there's 50 points we could list to compare, but I'm gonna list couples. So rest and digest mode is the PS system, parasympathetic. So this is the opposite of the sympathetic one, constant alertness, which leads to overthinking, overeating, and undereating as well. Okay, so you can have bulimia or anorexia. You can sleep lightly, you can burn out slowly as well. So basically, helping yourself, like helping yourself, not helping yourself, but directing self awareness toward this sensor, okay, this mental inner sensor, is self repair. It's not self help. Like, again, you're not helping yourself. Nothing is wrong. It's about what's happening, how you receive the information, how you process it. So there's a reason breathwork, meditation, and journaling feels so good, because they put you back to biological baseline. Okay,
Mhm.
you resonate biologically to that. How many of you have heard speakers or conferences uh, where people say, write on a paper, write it on a paper, take a pen, take a paper, and write it down, don't think it. And there's reasons for that. There's a lot of reasons for that.
Interestingly, in Serbian, we have a saying, paper takes everything. And it doesn't translate all that well into English, but it basically means that paper can handle whatever you can give it, and that means just pour yourself out. Now, Serbians are not the most emotionally regulated people out there, and much like you mentioned Russians with the vodka, we kind of have the same thing. It's like you're not allowed to be depressed. Depression doesn't exist. It's not real. There's like still a huge stigma over it. And if you were to mention somebody that you're going through therapy, everybody, everyone would be like, "Oh, you're crazy now, huh?" This is like this whole national laughing stock kind of thing with anyone who's trying to tackle their mental health. But then you also hear some horrendous stories of mothers that just went completely insane with not having enough money to feed their children, and then they shoot the husband, kill the kids, and shoot themselves. And it's like, yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to come out somewhere if you're constantly repressing and you're kind of just escaping from it. But writing it all down, the whole point of the saying that paper takes everything is that when you write it all out, it can externalize some of the feelings that you keep trapped inside yourself that are causing negativity, causing stress, causing additional adrenaline, and you might not want to admit it, but it's there and it's affecting you. I love this lesson, by the way.
Thank you. The best is yet to come, hopefully. But basically, I put this slide to make people understand there's a lot of people who think they are bigger than science. Okay. I'm just going to take back the Russian example. I had a patient in Lyon here years ago, and like I have goosebumps. It printed a memory in my mind. So the patient comes into the ER, okay, and my lamp got cut off. Sorry. So the patient comes into the ER and he has an injury on the hand. Like his hand is like half cut. It's like bleeding, but dry. Okay,
Mhm.
and and basically he comes and he's like, yeah, please help, like in French, and we're like, okay, what happened? He's like, yeah, 4 days ago, I was doing some work, and with the knife, I cut myself. And we're like, 4 days ago? And he's like, yeah. And why didn't you come 4 days ago? He's like, yeah, we put some things and it got dry, but now it's getting itchy and I want to bend, so I'm coming. And then we are laughing internally, but we're taking care of this guy. And basically he's telling us stories about his childhood, and he says, back in the day in my country, when I was 8 years old, I had flu, and my grandmother was taking care of me, and she put a she put like how do you call it, to cook a soup, a huge
Pot?
yeah, a huge pot,
Yeah.
thanks to like to cook something big like a soup. He said like she cooked a soup, but she put in it like a whole bottle of vodka, and then she told me to put my head on top of the pot. She put
Or
like
to
a
steam
sort of
it.
blanket
Yeah,
on
yeah,
top
the steam.
of it. She was hitting it, and she said, "Stay here for half an hour." And we are laughing, okay? We are like, "Okay, what happened then?" And he said, "Then," she said, "Drink the pot." And then we're like, "What?" And then we ask, "What happens?" And he said, "That's how you get rid of flu. You drink vodka." And we were like, "What is happening?" And so
Oh my God.
there's a lot of cultures. So yeah, I'm not. This is not medical advice at all, of course. This
There's a
individual
joke.
had.
Yeah, there's a joke with in Serbia as well. It says two guys are talking, older dudes, and they're Serbian, right? So one of them says, "Oh man, I have this horrible flu. It really makes me feel terrible." And the other guy goes, "Yeah, you know what I do? Whenever I have the flu, I take rakia, which is like this horrible 50% proof alcohol thing. It's like I take rakia and in a minute, it's all over." And the guy's like, "Oh, what? The flu is over?" He said, "No, rakia." Just get wasted. That's the
Excellent.
answer to everything. Yeah, some cultures have that, so I can totally believe the story.
Excellent.
Steaming
So
yourself
yeah,
and then drinking your soup with the alcohol. Yeah, lovely.
exactly. And then when you dig with these people, they're like, yeah, like they have a lot of traumas and they have stress, but they deny this being stress because it's like a self shame,
Yeah.
acknowledging I am stressed, I am depressed, as you said. Oh, you are crazy, my
Mm-hmm.
friend. Like it's like a
Yeah.
shame, and a bad thing, which is first definitely not, and second, denying a state makes you worse than the state itself. That is very true. So it's not woo woo, okay? This is like
Mm-hmm.
vagal tone regulation, cortisol cycle awareness, emotional pattern, like you mentioned it, reconditioning, and in the end, nervous system literacy. So once you understand these, you stop saying, why can't I handle this? And you start asking, like, what's my system trying to protect me from? And you said it. On Fridays, you ask yourself this implicitly. You're like, okay, what's my system trying to protect me from? But you already know the answer, and you're like, okay, I step back. I'm not trading today. And
Yeah.
that's the shift from self blame to self regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So, stress, and we mentioned it, we spoke about denials, okay? Stress is a silent driver of chronic disease. Ask any doctor, they will tell you that. It's if not all the chronic disease, we have like stress as roots or source of ethiopathology. So basically, it's linked to CV, cardiovascular disease, AI, autoimmune disorders, diabetes via insulin resistance and inflammation, GI condition, gastrointestinal, and mental health, depression, anxiety. Okay, depression again is when you are hooked into the past. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you have stress that led to most probably PTSD, that led to a depressive state, and the repetition, the reminiscence, the repetition of depressive states, episodes, we call it depressive episodes. When you repeat depressive episodes on a shorter time frame every time, and you keep repeating them like 2 3 times, then that's when you start to have a depressive syndrome. Having a depressive episode doesn't mean you are depressed, and it doesn't mean you have a depressive syndrome. Okay, but there's a path. You have stress, you have PTSD, you have depressive episode, and then repetition of that can lead to depressive syndrome. So stress is inflammation plus immune dysregulation plus metabolic stress strain, sorry. So It's a whole of things. It's not I don't stress. What is stress? It's not this. Like it's a whole lot of things. It's a whole lot of things.
It's effectively the your whole body going out of whack rather than just, oh yeah, I'm just a bit stressed. If it's constant stress, it leads to a whole bunch of other things over years and years if it's not dealt with. Is that right?
Exactly. It's like, let's
Mm-hmm.
say we have a working regime, and let's say you lose 0.1% of this working regime every day or every week, let's say. So it's so small that we don't like pay attention to it. We don't like uh, really catch it. But
Mm-hmm.
after 10 years, it's like minus like 25% perhaps. And so then you start noticing it. It's like growing up. It's like many things, right? So yes, chronic stress is a whole lot of things. So cortisol dysregulation, what is it? So it's helpful in short bursts again, but chronic elevation leads to muscle breakdown. You can have muscular problems. You can have fat accumulation, especially visceral fat. You can have brain fog and memory loss. Perhaps some of you don't know why they experience memory loss. Perhaps it's because they have chronic stress without knowing it, or cortisol dysregulation. Okay. It can be thyroidal problems as well. If you have hormonal imbalances, okay, it can be totally not linked to stress, fully hormonal, yet you will feel stress because of your cortisol dysregulation. You can have reproductive imbalances as well. So basically, long term cortisol dysregulates every other system. Like any other system, dysregulates this system as well, mostly. But today is not about physiological. So the body stops knowing what rest is. It just like we say trade the charts. Like the body operates the state. It just operates the state. So if the state is positive, let's say, it's going to operate positively. If the state is negative, it's going to operate negatively. So why do we speak, sorry, about the parasympathetic system, the vagus nerve? So it's a key player, if not core player, in the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so it influences HRV, heart rate variability. This is your ability um, to remain calm once you have a spike, okay, internal CV spike. So it influences digestion as well, saliva, immune response, emotional regulation. Like again, there's 25 different elements the PNS uh, works on, and it can be trained again via slow, extended, what we call DSB, deep and slow breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. So slow, extended exhale breathing. So you can inhale for 4 seconds and then exhale with the mouth for 8 seconds, and that's how you can regulate slowly your PNS.
I'm
You can
just going to
hum.
add for people
Yeah.
who don't maybe know what the vagus nerve is. Vagus nerve is the largest sort of nerve in your body, and it runs down the side of your neck throughout the entirety of your body. There are certain devices out there now that claim they can help the vagus tone, therefore inducing the parasympathetic mode in your body by stimulating it through vibration or through, pulsing and stuff like that. Now, those are not cheap, but I actually have one because of my vaccine injury. So what happened to me is that I ended up with a whole bunch of things as a result of my body reacting badly to an external assault, effectively. And a part of the disease is dysregulation of the vagal tone. So therefore, I worked a lot on yoga nidra, breathing, which I was doing anyway. But I found that it really helped me to feel a little bit better. But since I got one of the devices, I try to do it nearly every day. Some of them are too much for those of us who have issues. But there is one of them, and it's pretty expensive. It's like 700 pounds, but it's gentle enough to be therapeutic and not super invasive. But that's what a vagus nerve is. It's basically one of the largest nerves in the body. Very important.
Yeah, thank you for that. There's a lot of devices. I work myself on a neurobiofeedback device
Mm-hmm.
that's already on the market. Things like that. Not my device, but I'm working on the pros and cons of what's on the market and trying to put a great product on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you want to regulate emotion, train the body's recovery system. Um, and basically, the vagus nerve, as you said, uh, is what we call it the built-in brake pedal. It's like when you hit the gas for too long, you're like, oh, brake. And what chronic stress leads to? It leads to what we call allostatic load. Okay, an allostatic load is the accumulated weight burden of stress over time. Okay, it's not just what happens once, it's what accumulates silently. An elevated allostatic load shows up as sleep issues, weight gain or loss, high blood pressure, low energy and frequent illness, emotional reactivity. So you don't burn out from what you do, you burn out from what you never reset. I meet some patients, they tell me every 2 months I get sick. And I ask, what's the sickness? And it's mostly stress disorder symptoms. And when
Mm-hmm.
you ask and when you start to dig in what's happening, they are looping chronic stress. They are looping elevated allostatic loads. And they just keep cycling it. 2 months ago, something happened. 2 months later, something else happened. But in the end, it led to the same outcome, more or less, internally. And so once you understand that we have an event, okay, you have an event, and we're going to go through it later. You have an event, and this event leads to a reaction. So you have a stressor, and you have a reaction to the stressor, to the event of stress triggering. Okay. And so after this event, you reflect or not, but you digest or not. But if you don't, your body will, and your mind will anyway. So that is the allostatic load you keep. Okay. So every time you experience a stressful event, it can be stressful for an instant and you regulate it instantly. And this is great. Yet you have to understand this concept, this allostatic load, because you can just stack up for months and years. And then one day, perhaps some people experience that. I have some friends and patients who resonated with that. They said, one day I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't. I physically couldn't get out of the bed. My back was blocked. I couldn't. I went to my doctor. He said, you have a burnout. How many of you have experienced that? If you did, just share it in the chat. But this is an accumulation of elevated allostatic load. And some people experience it digestively, some people experience it on a muscular level, as we said. And many people experience this event, this can't get out of the bed event, we call it. Like one day after years of hard work and mostly stress as well. Lots of the time it's financial pressures, but not
Mm-hmm.
only, of course. They wake up and they're like, yeah, I don't know what's happening, but I can't today. I can't anymore. And they need a break. They need a break. And most of the time, when they get this break, they end up with life changing resolutions. Most of the time, it's one resolution to change, but they come up with something to disrupt, something to change because the like it's like being back to the wall, right? Back onto the wall, and you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now I have no choice. It's like the pain of regret, of the pain, or people call it discipline. I don't like it because discipline shouldn't be painful. But the pain of effort is painful, at least. So some people experience it on skin as well. Some people they have skin rashes. They have like huge red plaques or uh, pimples
Called
on the
hives.
body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
eczema, for
Mm.
example,
Eczema.
eczema
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
is a chronic, like a reaction to chronic and acute stress. Um,
So it wouldn't
Psoriasis
be
as
with
well.
like a weaker immune system, because I know that, for example, my brother-in-law struggles with eczema, and it got pretty bad in the last sort of 15 years. But he is also overweight. He doesn't really take care of himself. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Is he stressed out? Well, maybe, probably. But yeah, he just started having these like dry patches of skin, and that turned into other things. But he's always struggled with his immune system, even when he was a child. He's got some pretty serious food allergies and stuff. So, how much, I guess my question is, how much does genetic predisposition towards immune dysregulation play a part in this whole stress on top story? Does it, does it mean that some people are more prone to disease rather than others due to their genetic predisposition?
Thank you. Great point. I didn't mention genetic, but yes, of course. Uh, Take two families, one that experienced war traumas, and I'm not saying this because you did, but this is a practical example, and one family that didn't experience, like had a normal, let's say, warless life.
Mm-hmm.
In the bloodline, of course, one bloodline is going to be more sensitive uh, to stress. Yet, you can have what you have, the opposite shift happening after the event, right? So, how you described it to me, let's say you have patient X and you describe me the symptom. This is exactly what is written on the slide, right? Elevated allostatic load. If you ask your brother, does he have sleep issues? I bet he does.
Yeah,
He
he's
gained weight.
constantly sleeping. He's constantly tired. He's constantly sleeping, and he never has energy, and people kind of attribute that to the fact that he's quite heavy at this point, and he never used to be. When I met him when he was, dating my sister first, he was actually a pretty slim, athletic guy, but he did have food allergies, though. And then over the years, I don't know what happened. He just stopped taking care of himself, and here we are. He's got a whole host of health issues. He's also pushed
It's the
himself
topic
to
of the day,
develop
yeah.
his business. Yeah, and he doesn't have the best immune system to begin with, and then his maybe lack of attention towards his lifestyle has led him to have even more problems. And we just recently discovered he does have a non-aggressive bladder cancer as well, so he's now living with that. It's all just kind of spiraled completely out of control. So yeah, it's a very dangerous slippery slope to be on if you're not taking care of your health, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm a healthcare professional because suffering is horrible, and
Mhm.
I uh, I committed my life to help people who suffer. And when you don't know what you don't know, you just don't know it.
Yeah.
When you are in a loop, you don't know how to get out of the loop. You can't get blamed for not getting out or not knowing. Why do I say that? When people have a panic attack, 99%, and I've been in these shoes of the people, don't know how to deal with that. So what do we say to people? Keep calm, calm yourself, calm down, stop panicking. Like, this is the worst thing to say to
See,
anybody
but he
who's
doesn't
having a
even
panic
panic.
attack. No,
Yeah,
no,
but
I'm not
he,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah,
for your
calm
brother.
down as if that's gonna
No,
help.
no, I'm I'm
Yeah,
my
so
point is
my,
something else. I'm not saying he panics attack, but my
yeah,
point
so
is,
so my brother-in-law is one of those people who actually holds things in. He never shows. He will actually joke, and like he just cracks jokes. It's like, yeah, 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 haha, I've got bladder cancer, haha. Like that's not funny, dude. It's like you need to, take control. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's a typical kind of like man's man, where he will not admit there is a problem, that he's totally fine. There's no stress in his life, even though I know there's a lot of stress in his life. But what do you do? Like, and I've met some traders like that as well, where they have so much stuff going on and they're trying to trade, but I can see that they're not focused. They're not doing the work. They come to trade without a plan, and then they get themselves into trouble. And I say, well, what else is going on here? Like, you said you were gonna not trade before you submitted me the plan. Where's the plan? And it's like, oh, I didn't have time, I was really busy. I was like, okay, so do you want to make money, or do you want to claim that you're busy and that you can't be bothered to do this? Because the outcome is going to be lost money, right? It's not going to be like fun and games. Oh yeah, it doesn't really matter. You can harm your standard of living by not following a plan. So what is going on? And then suddenly it comes up that he's got debts to his eyeballs, that he's actually got going through a divorce, that, a whole bunch of stuff that is preventing him from sitting down to actually create a plan for trading because he's so distracted elsewhere. And, until we sort that part out, there will be no good trading. I'm sorry to say this. I apologize for bursting anybody's bubble, but your mind has to work at the peak performance, especially once you're still honing your strategy. Once you've honed your strategy, that's a different story. But whilst you're still learning, that's additional stress too, because you have so many unknowns in trading. And when you get stung or when you oversize, you're just going to find yourself in a situation where you're now trading out of fear and doubt, because it's like, well, this should have happened, but it didn't. And instead of going back to data and going, well, how many times this setup works and how many times this doesn't work, was my stop loss at an appropriate place, go back to the numbers and data. I find them very comforting for the exact reason that I can step back and look at what is actually happening in front of us, rather than being all of my experiences of trading being laced with my fear of what might happen to the trade, right? That way you get some numbers behind the setups and you go, okay, today that didn't work. Why? Because 33% of the time this doesn't work. Today is that kind of the day. Next. That's how I look at it. I don't allow it to affect me in a stressful way. Now, of course, I've talked about randomly distributed probabilities in trading that then cause additional fear and doubt, because nothing is like, oh, something works 7 times and then it doesn't work 3 times. No, you can have doesn't work 3 times, doesn't work 2 times, and then it works 7 times, but then it also doesn't work three. However, you need a big sample size in order to aggregate all the data and get more accurate description in all of the chaos of the time added to the particular sample size, right? So sample size of 1 week is going to be of lower quality, even though, let's say, you have 100 trades. But if you take 100 trades over a year, that gives you an entirely different set of data, if that makes sense. Personally, I find that takes the stress away from me. Maybe not everyone's like that, but that worked for me. So there you go, little tip.
Well, we got 10 different points. Thank you. I don't know from which one reacting, but yeah, just to close the topic of your brother, um, I think there's a lot of underlying, not a lot, but there's a couple, at least three main elements underlying, and there could be a path to helping for helping himself. But the
Mhm.
thing is, yeah, denial is also a sort of shell maneuver. So you said he says things in a funny way, or
Yeah.
he says, "No, I'm not." He denies. This is what we call the shell maneuver. It's a way for not some people, but sometimes we are in certain states in which the only way visible for us to communicate and express some things are through love or not seriousness.
Mhm.
And you can recognize these sort of patterns and take them as I take them personally as signal alarms. Okay, as alarms, as there's a saying when you ask a man how you're doing, and he says, "I'm fine," like he's all but fine, right? And so, like, there's this saying, and so basically, it's the same spirit. So stress is not a joke, guys. If you pay attention to your inner levels, it's very important. And you mentioned about preparation. I love Dr. Steenbarger. Months ago, he said something on air that kept into my mind. He said, imagine being a doctor and you have a patient coming in, and as soon as the patient opens the door, you're like, Alzheimer, depression, anxiety. You're guessing the disease or what the patient has. And he says, why would you open the chart and be like, buy or sell? You're like, you
Yeah.
need data, you need information. Yeah, like you let the patient sit, you let the patient speak, you ask questions to the patient answers, and that's data, right? And I'm not like, oh, I guess you like if you tell me you have a headache, I'm not sorry about that. I'm not gonna examine your legs or butt or back or whatever. I'm not. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
a global like, but you get the point, right? So
Yeah.
when you said people deviate from their plans, for me this metaphor stayed into my mind. I was like, okay, do I have enough data? What's the diagnosis, sort of? What's the situation? And that helped me a lot. That helped me a lot, at least in terms of preparation. I was like, yeah, I would never guess a patient's like status, what? Why would I do this on chart? And yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's it's
Dr.
very nice.
Steenberger has this lovely saying that I always mention to everybody else as well. He says, before I start looking for traits, I look for understanding. So, I'm somebody who gets criticized a lot for like, not trading immediately when the show starts and, but I'm someone who, until I know what they're sort of trying to do by having enough data, I won't enter a trade. I just won't, right? And if I do that because there's like pressure on me to do a trade, it almost never ends well. It almost, you can't trade from what the chat wants or what this person wants. So that you have to trade from an understanding. And like you said, Jerome, you wouldn't be, shouting diagnoses at a patient as soon as they walk through the door, hoping that one of them will stick. Uh, like imagine walking into a therapist office and they're like you said, depression, and you're like, you're right. What kind of a process is that? Yeah, it would be a little odd, and yet that is exactly what a lot of traders do, right? They open up a chart, it's like, I think it's a buy. Like based on what? Did you do market structure analysis? Did you look at the daily time frame higher than 15 second? Did
Exactly.
you did you see maybe what the candlestick patterns are? What is the volume doing at that particular level?
And
All of that
yeah,
is there's a reason why I say diagnosing a chart. I actually love that
there you
saying
go.
because that is what we're doing. We're diagnosing a chart. And until you have a decent understanding of what the chart is trying to tell you, you shouldn't be in a trade. So to me, it's insane that I see some people who are doing like 100 trades a day. And I'm like, well, how long have you been trading? And they're like, 6 months. What are we doing here? It's like, really? How do you even find 100 trades a day? You don't. You just click buttons. You try and catch every little minute move before knowing what the bigger picture is trying to tell you. So, it's not surprising that we have such high rate of failure because many people, that's exactly what they do. They think that's what trading is all about. It's not.
Exactly, exactly. And you mentioned diagnosis,
Yeah.
as I did. What comes after diagnosis usually?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. What comes
Uh,
after diagnosis?
treatment, prescription, right? You
Treatment.
have a
Treatment.
prescription. You have a
Oh, yeah.
prescription for a treatment. So if we keep the metaphor, the prescription, the treatment will be the trade execution. So do you
Yeah.
think I'm like, you're a nice lady. You have you have diabetes, and I'm gonna prescribe you paracetamol, like
Yeah.
out of nowhere, random. No, it's not like that, right? So you do the analysis, the anamnesis, the diagnosis, and then you execute. You prescribe. You have enough element. You are a sniper. You have a not 100% win rate, but the doctors should have 100% win rate and must have 100% win rate. You should prescribe the right
Uh,
medic,
yeah.
and not
Ideally, yeah.
yeah, you should not get caught in a fake out. You should just like get the prescription. So
Now, it
yeah,
doesn't
it's
mean that we're always going to be right, and it also doesn't mean that the doctors will always be right with the first diagnosis, and that's okay.
of
That's
course,
why we
yeah,
do more tests and more data and more, aggregation of what other information we have about the current state of the patient. You know, if we're going to stick with again with the metaphor, the patient in this case is the chart, right?
Yeah,
What is it
exactly.
trying to tell us? Is it sick? Is it jumping off a cliff? Does it need antidepressants? Yeah, quite possibly with Trump tariffs.
Exactly. And you said it. I mean, doctors are great, but I have one of my friend who went to five different cardiologists, like well decent cardiologists, and only the fifth discovered uh, a child like problem, child like birth problem, and
Mhm.
so genetic childbirth problem in the
Oh,
heart.
really? Birth defect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
With a valve, and so he was convinced something was off, and so if he just like after four appointments said, okay, like yeah, four doctors told me I have nothing, I did all the exams, yet he didn't surrender. He didn't know if he was right. He felt it, but yeah, it can happen as well.
I have unfortunately a similar situation where my illness is a bit of a mystery to the medical community still, even though it's not new. People have been suffering from MECFS, which is the myalgic encephalomyelitis, aka chronic fatigue syndrome, for many decades. And you know, it's been known in back in the day as the living death. Sometimes people experience either illness or trauma or it can be a physical injury as well, and then their body sort of goes into total dysregulation and dysautonomia, but it's extremely difficult to diagnose because it's effectively a brain problem and they don't really have telemetry yet to figure out exactly what's going on. So we have, on paper, perfect results. Every single test that they do, thyroid, hormones, diabetes, blood sugar, it all comes back normal. And yet, some of us, like some of the people who are most severe, they can't even walk. They've literally lost the ability to walk. They can't get out of bed. They don't have enough strength to chew food. So a lot of them, we actually had a few people who died of malnutrition because the medical community would not provide a nasogastric tube for feeding because they didn't believe it was a real problem. We actually had a horrible story of one of the journalists in the UK. His daughter Maeve was sick from ME/CFS for years, and she was only, I think, 23 years old when she succumbed to the disease purely from malnutrition. Why? Because the doctors didn't know and didn't believe that it was a true condition. Like nobody starves themselves on purpose, you know? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's getting a little bit better. It's still in research, but they still don't quite know. They don't have the treatment. There's protocols that you can read online, and I was lucky to stumble onto two scientists who were patients themselves, but one of them was training to be an NASA astronaut when the illness happened to her, and the other one was a professor of biomedical sciences, and they both got, one of them got dengue fever, the other one got valley fever, and they both ended up in like over a decade of being ill from this weird thing that happens. So they've done a lot of research on that front. I connected as soon as I found them, I connected with them, and they were able to kind of guide me through some of my own issues. So now I'm functional purely thanks to them and their guidance. I'm still not fully recovered, but I'm kind of on the way. Partly the reason why I moved from London was I think because London was causing me stress. So not in any kind of, oh yeah, I'm just constantly stressed out. But for example, I would go outside to drive, constant roadworks, constant pollution. I had days where I would come home after being out shopping. I would cough out like black stuff. And I'm like, this can't be good for me. Really can't. And we made a decision to move, partly because of my illness as well. Stress definitely plays a part in it, but in my case, it was the external aggressor. It was the vaccine that my body really didn't take to very well, and it caused a shingles outbreak, which didn't heal for 6 months because, again, doctors didn't catch it in time. So we can't be wrong, But eventually, we should be able to find a treatment for the known illnesses that we have. And if not, we do research. And I'm going to draw a parallel again to the charts, right? If you don't know why a particular day didn't work out, you go back to research phase to find what you can do to improve upon that, right? Everything has its parallels. It's super interesting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's very important. Indeed, environments play a major part in stress as well,
Yeah,
um, if not most of it. So yeah, you did well, and hopefully it helps you try to get better. And yeah, it's unfortunate some diseases they are not known enough. Thankfully,
yeah,
we have the progress of technology and medicine that is helping, but we are glad that you found some fellows that are helping you and it's useful. So yeah,
yeah.
thank you for sharing.
I'll get there. Don't worry. I'm endlessly optimistic and very
We know,
stubborn. So
we know
yes.
you do. Not the stubbornness, but the optimistic part.
Oh no, I'm pretty stubborn.
So basically, regulating stress boosts immunity, focus, and recovery. Okay, so this is a very small list. Okay, not exhaustive, but regular stress regulation practices improve immune cell activity, like NK cells and T cells, immune system, white cells, sleep quality, especially the REM sleep and deep sleep, cognitive flexibility, so your ability with the PFC, prefrontal cortex, especially the DL PFCs, dorsolateral and medioventral PFCs, which is our ability to adapt and react, and emotional resilience, our ability to return to baseline faster. So the body listens to the signals you repeat. What are you teaching it daily? What are the signals you keep on daily? And the body listens to that and transfer it to the mind. Okay, and then the mind prints it as a memory, and that is your state of being. So I think that's it for the day as the slides. So before we go into questions or comments, so I prepared two things. Uh, Perhaps we could have time for both, but I'm still gonna present both of them, and whatever you think, D and the chat, is better to start on, will do. So I prepared a sort of visualization, a meditation on stress, and or we could do, and if we have time, we could do both. What we call a mental exercise. I use it in personal trainings. It's a mental exercise to understand what we've mentioned today, which is stressors, okay? Stress triggering stimuli, events, and our reactions to stress, and how you can pay attention to what's happening, how it's happening, and build awareness upon that. So these are the two. So one is a meditation visualization, the other is an exercise. So for the exercise, I'm going to share my screen, if I can, with Word, Microsoft Word. I'm going to put a chart, a table on, and it's going to be interactive. Like I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask the chat some questions, and you're just going to type some
Let's do
answer.
the interactive thing because we've done the visualizations and we can maybe do the visualization as the end if we still have time. But let's do the interactive exercise.
Let's go. Okay, so if I if I do
Okay,
this, do you have my screen or is it ugly?
let's have a look. Is it allowing me to do that? Hold on. Let me just I'm still working on the laptop, so this is a bit annoying. So I need to remove that and then I can add that. Let's see. Can you possibly go into a single view? Because I think this is going to be a little bit difficult to read if we need to read it.
Let me try.
Hmm. Just so
Um,
that everybody can actually read what's on the screen as well.
is it better now?
Yes, I think that's better. Yeah, that's great.
All right. Here we go. So we have, so this is a table you can use for, okay? Uh, Table can be used for uh, pleasant, uh, nice, joyful events, unpleasant, bad, let's call them bad, sad events, and stressful events. And you can get this for you can use it for the trading
Hmm.
and for personal life as well. So let me give you an example, okay? Uh, I lost a trade. I'm gonna cut my mic. Do you hear my keyboard when I type?
It's fine. It's a minimal, so keep it.
Okay, I lost a trade. Then I re-entered with double size and blew my account. Okay, this is an example. So body sensations and feelings, heat growing to my head. I uh, I see red, black. Breathing stopped or fast breathing,
Shallow. Yeah.
shallow breathing, shallow. You can have fast heart as well. You can have a hole into the stomach, for example. Okay.
Butterflies.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thoughts, emotions. So this is a journal. Okay, you
Yeah. Yeah.
journal what you
Yeah.
think, what you feel, what you sensate. So
Lighter saying face tingling.
face tingling, yeah, lightheaded.
Hmm.
Let's put them. So
Lightheaded. Yeah.
face tingling, light-headed. So thoughts, emotions. What are the thoughts that come into your mind, guys? Uh, let's say I am a failure, or
Hmm.
I blew all my efforts. I did it again, for example.
All the negative self-talk. T3
I did it
metrics. Tom is
again.
saying flipped my desk over.
Flipped on my desk over. So
Yeah.
this is rage, okay? Rage,
Rage.
emotion,
Hmm.
rage. Okay, this is rage. You can have frustration. You can have anxiety. Okay, for example, you can feel regret. Uh, you can
Here's a very
think,
bad one. I'm an effing retard. That's
yeah, I am.
very. That's
We'll put,
yeah.
I am stupid. I am
Yeah.
an idiot. We'll put it this way. Rage broke my headphones. Hot behind ears, exactly. Hot
Yeah.
behind ears.
Yeah.
One time I snapped my headphone. Here you go. So, what
That's
do you
rage as
think of
well.
it
Yeah.
now? Once
Shay
you
says feeling of dread.
dread,
That's another one.
dread,
Fear.
feeling of
Yeah.
dread. So now, what do you think of it now? Like now is not today. It's once you journaled the event. So you can think, for example, okay, I'm not gonna do it again. I'm not gonna do it again. Or now I'm gonna stick to my rules. I'm gonna stick to my rules. Or you can say, this was my last chance and I blew it, whatever you think. And if you have other example, blame it on bad luck, blame it on bad luck. Some people said that. So basically, this is a pattern, okay? And we'll come back to this pattern. So now let's take another example. Let's take an example in life. For example, my coworker or manager had a talk with me, and it pissed me off. Sorry, it pissed me off. Body sensation, feelings. Okay, uh, body tensed, Okay, sensation of choking. You could have a sensation of choking, not being able to breathe, speak like smoothly, properly. Uh, what else could you have? You could have hands shaking, for example. You could have uh,
Yeah, fast
anger.
breathing would be if you're angry, you're
Yeah,
like,
fast breathing,
you just want to punch
fast breathing.
something. Yeah,
So anger. What did you say? You just want to punch something. You just
yeah,
want to punch something, or sometimes I just want to punch her or him
yeah,
or him. I'm gonna kill her or him. Some people say
yeah,
that, but
yeah,
they don't do it, right? You can think that,
yeah.
um, and then what do you think of it now? Perhaps it wasn't worth it, or
Or
sometimes,
I need this job. I know
yeah.
that I've had some people who are like, I hate my boss, but I really need my job. It's like, yeah, it's
And
a
you
difficult
can
one.
feel, so some people, for example, they related to me some stories, and then they said the next day, do you know what I did? I went to my manager and I told her the story. Like they don't want to make this a cold case. They want to keep it hot, right? So they keep the story up, right? So this is something people could do as well. uh,
Hmm.
I don't agree. uh, I need respect. Some people, they
Hmm.
feel disrespected, for example.
Yeah.
I don't feel respected. Things like that, for example.
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
in trading, for example, let's go back to trading. We'll do some jumps like that. So you just had your funded, okay?
Hmm.
Or I just had my funded. I just had my XFA. I took a trade and it was a winner. I thought there was a second nice setup. I took it and lost more than what I should. Um, then I took another trade, didn't blow the account, yet lost too much.
Hmm.
Okay. So what can you feel? If anybody felt that in the chat or experienced that, what do you feel? What are the body sensations, the feelings you can feel? It can be the same as the first example, yet we can have some differences.
Yeah. So let's say maybe feeling of hopelessness or something, or maybe again fear, or maybe also feeling a bit stupid because you sized up, or maybe you had a bigger stop loss than you should have done, or double the size, so doing all the wrong things. I actually like to go down the rabbit hole of exactly the price action that caused me to malfunction. So, for example, in high volatility, like I actually thrive in high volatility, but I know that many people struggle. So, what happens is that they still use the same data from another market state, and then that starts to bite them. Like for example, they enter NQ on like 10-point stop, and they're out of the trade like in a nanosecond. It didn't even last like a minute, let alone actually given it time. And that would actually cause negative emotions. That is the experience. High volatility, but not knowing the new market state and not having the experience to what to do in that situation, sizing down, expanding stops, allowing the trade more time to work. And yet price action is moving like crazy. So fast price action is the experience that led you to either blow up or lose a bunch of trades, or the fast price action caused you to lose the first one and then you lose control. That's been a running theme throughout the coaching, VIP coaching that we did in the last season. And then they go and tilt. And then the fear and doubt starts creeping in. Then they start thinking they're not good enough or that they don't know enough, which in this case would be true, not enough experience to deal with a new situation. But then how do you deal with that? Well, you have to go back to the research stage. Again, we come back to to the research stage. It's like if you don't know how to behave in this new environment, you need more data. And that's okay to admit, but it's not going to stop you from feeling terrible emotions whilst you're going through it, right? Whilst you're making the mistakes. And that's the biggest challenge in trading, I think. How do you learn through the negative emotions? Because we know that fear and doubt, fear in particular, prevents brain development. Stress prevents the creation of new neural networks, right? That's also why it's not very good. But yeah, so maybe
Yeah,
like for
thanks.
myself, I have a mental trigger of when the market is totally not moving anywhere. Like if it moves like sort of 10, 20 ticks in my favor and then kind of sits there, I'm fine with that. But if it's a super quiet day and for some reason my product is not moving, if I enter a trade and it's just going 5 ticks above, 5 ticks below, all around my entry, that is the point where I know that's my trigger because I'll be like, well, it still hasn't moved. It might be a range. Oh, let me try the other side. This is how I used to think. But now, when I try two, one long, one short, I will be like, hold up, I've seen this before. And it didn't end well. So now I look at the things from a more critical side. So I will stop trading and I will go, is this a range? And then I start asking myself questions. Did we make a higher high? Was it a stop run? Did we come back into the range? Is the range large enough for me to take advantage of it? Do we have a P-shaped profile? Maybe yesterday in natural gas, I was watching it because I was in on the first part of the move, then I closed it and it just went on like a massive run. We talked about it in on the Euro trade. So I only took the tiniest chunk and then I watched it all day as it went on this massive trending day without me, which was absolutely fine. And then towards the end of the day, I noticed a P-shaped move. So there's a P-shaped profile, which means usually towards the end of the day, we're gonna have another attempt. So again, research and data comes back, and I actually managed to take the final sort of 30 ticks into the end of the day. It doesn't matter that I missed the rest. I still managed to hold myself off from doing stupid things whilst I missed out on a trade. All of that needs to come into this process, I think. So not just going, oh, I lost 3 combines, just like a bird's eye view. I think you actually need to drill into what price action is doing that is causing you to lose control. Do you agree?
Completely. And thank you for sharing again and these practical, beautiful clarifications. Some people shared some examples. So, for example, I lost 3 combines in one day and 2 funded. I have lost XFAs on the last day before a payout and reproduced it. Okay, this is an event. Now
Yeah.
we want you to dissect the event. You didn't put a trade on and lost your accounts. How did you lose your accounts? Look at this example. I lost a trade, then I re-entered with double size and blew my account. This is why the account was blown. Okay, you need to dissect it so you can understand what's happening. So I think this individual for the 3 compounds and 2 funded said body sensations, fight or flight. Okay, this is what you think it is, but be precise. What perhaps now you don't have the example, but this table, this process is to help you from now forward. Okay, you
Mhm.
don't necessarily need to recall here today with our example, but understand the process we're going through and do this forward today, because you will identify things, precise things, and you will be able to tell yourself, okay, I have this experience, I have these body sensations and feelings, these thoughts, these emotions. Now you have part one, part two, and part three. What do you think of it now? Do you want to reproduce this pattern? Then if you don't want to reproduce this pattern, if you follow this process, you will easily identify what's causing this. Okay, and so now we're going to do 1 or 2 examples of pleasant, nice, joyful events, and then we're going to go to the second part of this exercise. So this is for, so same table, just for pleasant, joy, unpleasant, sad, bad,
So this is unpleasant. This is bad
uncomfortable events.
stuff. Yep. Now we're gonna do the same thing
Yeah,
for good, pleasant, joyful events.
exactly. So for example, my first baby, I don't have a baby, but my first baby, uh body sensation feelings, tears, excitation, shaking, uh, crying, yelling, like a lot of things like that. Need of hugs, for example. You can have need of hugs. Uh, sensitive, lovey mood. Okay. If you have other things coming to your mind, just go ahead. Thoughts, for example, life is beautiful. Uh, thank God, thank life, whatever. Uh, you can say, I feel lucky. I feel great. Um, I am so happy this human being is in good health and shape. Things like that. And so you can see what a joyful, positive event can bring to you and your body as well. Some people said fear. Yeah, it can be fear as well. You can experience fear as well. Of course, you can experience fear, but then you can connect your thoughts, emotions, body sensations, and feelings to an experience. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we either forget these, like body sensations and feelings, or thoughts, emotions. We often take one of the two, not often both. So let's say now, for example, what is happening? Let's say, can we add? If we do this, yeah, okay. Why can't I? Okay.
Not enough rows, eh? For all the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. Let's do it here. So let's
Yeah.
say, if you have another example of pleasant event, have a pleasant. I got a job. I got my driving license. Whatever. Does anybody want to share a pleasant, joyful event? Nice event. It could be a winning trade, for example. Let's dissect
Yeah.
the event.
Yeah. Let's
So you got transferred
maybe,
to a live account. Here we go. You transfer to a live account.
yeah.
To a live account. So you receive, you open, you receive, I receive the email and I open it. So body sensation, feelings, thoughts, emotions.
So for me, it's like, here we go again. So
Okay.
here's the thing. I think the transfer to a live account, for many people, like just looking at Twitter, not like myself, but just looking at how the Twitter community is handling it, they almost feel like they're demoted. And I just want to address that for a second because the math stays the same, okay? It doesn't matter whether you're trading across 5 accounts and they all get smushed into one, or whether you're trading 5 lots in a single account. You're still trading with the same balance, same everything. The only difference is in your head. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, so
Sure.
let's say transfer to a live account. For me, it is an achievement again, even though it came pretty quickly. um, do we do I feel elation? No, but I feel content. I feel content that I'm back on in the live. I feel that what I've been doing with copper and nat gas and platinum has given me the good signals that it is the right path for me. So, rather than going, oh, I'm not sure if this is working, it's shown me it's working. And that's now basically being validated by the team saying, yeah, you've done a good job. We're having you back. So all of that is a positive sensation for me. Because I know my my abilities, but I would be lying if I didn't say that crude oil last year didn't make me question things. Okay, so finding another product, another 3 products that are working for me, it is validation, right? So I can now be sure that I'm on the right path, right? Frogs in my throat. Excuse me. It's still the morning. So all of that is definitely a positive thing for me. And even after 18 years and after, oh, it's another account will be, but it's a good feeling, right? It doesn't mean that I'm going to now go to some elated um, dopamine high, because to me there's not that much difference. I will still trade the same. However, if you're newer, a transfer to a live account carries a much bigger emotional weight. So suddenly the stakes are higher. I've been here before, it's fine. But if you've never been there, the executions are slightly different. You may have to wait a few seconds before the market fills you because it is the real exchange. Some people are like, it's Topstep. It's not Topstep. It's the CME. It is the actual exchange. Uh, but yeah, I can totally see how somebody who hasn't been in a live account and they expect perfect fills every single time, no problem. That's not going to happen, especially not in the products that I'm trading. Um, but it's definitely something to consider if you're a new trader and you've made a big achievement or a transfer, big transfer to live. How would you tackle that part? Because I just tell them to go to the gym. But Jerome, what would you say to somebody who is getting transferred to live and they're feeling excitement but also fear because now things are kind of changing, stakes are bigger, maybe they're more visible. How would we handle that?
Thank you for this interesting question. Well, today I would have a very different answer from a couple months ago. Uh, don't change anything on your strategy, but adapt to a different environment. So mathematically adapt your sizing to the size of the account, and adapt to market change. When you are in XFA, you you allow your own DLL, so you have more room. You could have more room than a live account. So sometimes
Mm.
the transition can feel unbalanced. Some people like move with the same sizing, the same strategy, but it's not equivalent in terms of elements of strategy. So it gets mathematically unbalanced. When
Yeah.
it works well, but when it doesn't work on your side. The
I
math
think
doesn't
most
work.
of the time is the mental adjustment of seeing the bigger numbers in one account. Because, if you're doing one lot across five, that's one thing. But if you're seeing five all in one account, I think it changes a lot of
Yeah, but
mental size. Yeah.
it's the whole point. Let's say you have five 150K XFA, okay,
Mhm.
with 4,500 drawdown. Um, let's say you use your full drawdown. You have 4,500 on five XFAs. So the MLL maximum loss limit is set up to zero. So if you hit zero, you're done. You blew.
Mhm.
Uh, so basically, if you put one lot, one NQ copied five times, and you allow yourself, let's say, 1,000 per account as stop, which is 50 points. Totally, you engaged five lots for 5,000. The thing is, when you get transferred to live, you have 3,000. So if you trade with five minis, here's the imbalanced math. You go from
Yeah, it
5K to 3K.
it is up to debate though with the risk team. So if you want a bigger loss size, they will accommodate if they feel that's the right path for you. If they feel that that's not going to work in live over longer periods of time, they will obviously put the shackles of 3K per day on you,
Yeah, yeah.
clearly.
But
Yeah.
when you get transition, you cannot increase this when you are transitioned. When you are transition, it's fixed
Again,
to
it
three.
depends. It depends on your. There's a big trust trust component. Who you are, how long have you been with the firm? They are open to conversations with people they know well and they trust. So if you kind of proved yourself over, a number of years or whatever, they will have these conversations with you because they know you won't be unreasonable. And if you say, "Hey, I'm starting with like let's say 100K balance. Can I have 5,000 maximum data loss limit?" And they would be like, "Okay, yes, why not?" But at the same time, if you've never been in a live account and you're fairly new to them, they will probably be like, yeah, let's see how you get on. And then,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
That's
two,
I
three
was
months
speaking
down
for
the
this
line,
point.
yeah, so 2, 3 months down the line, if you're doing well, you haven't messed things up completely, you haven't gone straight down into a daily loss limit bonanza every single day, and 3 months down the line, your performance, even 1 month down the line, you've maintained performance over 20 days, downside is controlled, you know, bigger days than your winning days than your losing days, and they would be like, okay, yeah, let's open up the shackles a bit. But at the same time, they don't like people being in a drawdown and then reaching out to them and going, hey, can I have a bigger loss limit?
Yeah,
They're
of
just
course.
going to
Yeah,
say
of
no.
course.
And yet
Can I
that's what
dig a
people
bigger hole?
want. They're like, oh, it's too tight. It's too tight. No, it's not too tight. You're trading with too much size down. And I don't want to size down. Well, that's great. But
We don't
yeah,
want
so
to draw
when
down your effort.
exactly, we don't want you drawing down so much so quickly that you just blow up for no reason because you wanted more leash, more rope to hang yourself, right?
Exactly. So
Gavin
yeah,
Rodriguez is saying
so
copper making lower lows. That's great, but I'm waiting for a transfer to live, so therefore I have nothing to trade at the moment. Gonna have to buy a
sitting on her
combine
hands.
later on. Yes.
And you can see the things you think on a pleasant event. So we just did one, but we can do many others.
Yeah.
Uh, People didn't have that much positive events to share.
Yeah.
Paradoxically, people don't have like, this is funny when I do this with patients or coaching. Personally, I put in my personal table, I put as pleasant event the sound of birds I hear in the morning before waking up, and so I can, like, I'm aware about how I feel bodily and like the sensations I have when I hear the birds. And when I don't hear them, I hear the cars, the bus, and the klaxons, like the noises of the streets. And this is an unpleasant event for me. Like, of course, it's not going to shape my day like that, but it's I identify it as a like not joyful event. And so
So maybe
paying
go
attention.
granular on the positive side rather than,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
big
And
life events.
and
You can go a little,
it's
yeah.
also paying attention. Like perhaps you don't pay attention to the birds that make nice noise next to your house. It's also about being aware and sensory aware about what's happening and what's making you pleasant or unpleasant. Perhaps when you're driving, we mention it all the time, but it's a great example I use on daily basis. Road rages.
Mm-hmm.
Road rages. So for some people, they can put road rage every single day on this table. Somebody passed me very fast and didn't put his light and didn't say sorry or thank you and blah blah blah. And I got angry. I got out of my car with my baseball bat and hammered, like whatever. And so like you hear crazy
Sweet.
things. So for some people, it really happens this way. So this table can help you to be aware. So now, if you want, we can do the second part, which is I am stressed when, and when I am stressed then. For example, I am stressed, not personal example, but different examples. When I have a lot of work to do and I don't know from where to start. Uh, so, for example, when I experience this, for example, I eat a lot of chocolate. Okay, that's the response for some people. So we call these stressors. I don't know, triggers. And so if some people want to share when they are stressed, like I am stressed when, please do. When are you stressed, D? When your dogs bark, for example, or stuff like that, like basic stuff, or in trading, like whatever.
Yeah, so
This is
yeah,
the
my
this is the
dog's barking,
interactive
yeah, that is a
exercise.
bit annoying. It is a bit annoying, but for me, I always try to remember that now they're here and they generally live shorter lives than us, much shorter. And I just put I have little earplugs, so just put my earplugs, and then I usually try to tell them. to behave, and I try to say, hey, come on, guys, it's not necessary. But I find it cute. I don't actually find it that stressful. It's just a little bit annoying because there's so many of them. Things that I do find stressful. Oh, let's see. Unpacking boxes right now. That makes me stressed. Yeah, because I have to get ready for people coming over. I want to show off the house. A little bit of stress. And what do I do when stressed? Well, interestingly, I go out for a dog walk. That tends to completely get me into nature and, just zen, touch the grass, right? Um, what else do I do? Let's
Please
see what
chat.
else
This
can
is
I
an
do.
interactive exercise. Share
Yes,
when
please
you are
do. Yeah,
stressed.
you share as well.
It
Yeah.
can be trading, not trading. I am stressed when my wife talks to me. I am stressed when I go to the doctor. I am stressed when I need to pay bills. I am stressed when I open the charts. I am stressed when I don't know what price action is going to do depending on my strategies. Like, just share what stresses you. And if you can identify it, share what you do when you are stressed under this circumstance. My goal today is to make you understand what happens when you are stressed and what you do when you are stressed and what automatic pattern you enable. This is all about automatism, automatic patterns, automatic loops we have in your brain, in our physiology. And if you don't identify them or enable to identify them, today the exercise is for that. But if you don't interact with us, we can't help you. So please
Yes,
share
exactly. You
with us.
need to interact. You need to take action. Everything we talk about giving you knowledge, but then you have to take action based on whatever we're saying. Yeah.
Here we go. I am stressed when a lady at work appears to be using narcissistic behaviors to try and control me. Uh, and I have a high distrust now that she's done this a few times. Okay, so when this happens, what do you do, trading Nichols? What do you do as actions, or what do you
Hmm.
feel? Bruno says, I'm stressed when my wife drives the car. So what do you do when she drives the car? Do you pray? Do you like what do you do when she drives the car? I'm
Yeah.
stressed
Hold on to
because
your passport for ID and your teeth. Yeah.
exactly.
Like
So
if you
I'm
get if you
stressed
get into
because
an
it feels
accident,
like
yes.
everyone is good at this but me. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Then what do you do when you
It's a
feel
good
that?
one.
What do you do? I am stressed when I open YouTube and see algorithm showing successful traders and I am not yet successful. So what do you do when you experience that?
So here's a good one. This is one of my market stalkers, Danica. I'm stressed when my toddler is screaming and bouncing off the walls during peak trading hours. That's a tough one.
Yeah. What do you do when
Yeah.
he does that?
Rex says I'm stressed when my dogs go outside and get muddy because I need to give them a bath. Do they like baths, Rex? Because mine love it. They want to get in as soon as possible. It's quite funny.
So for a while, I just made sure I was not in the car when my wife. But okay, this is not your
Bruno
example,
says I
trading
do nothing, not talking so I don't disturb her.
Okay,
But how do you
so
feel? How does it
do
make you feel?
no, do nothing is doing something. So you are
Right.
afraid of disturbing her. Okay, so I am afraid of disturbing her. Is it right, Bruno? Like this is a fear, right? So this triggers a fear and a fear-based reaction. Okay, and I can understand that this is somehow funny. Let me keep track of the chat. Thank you guys for playing the game. I get stressed when people put me under pressure for fun. What do you do when this happens? What do you do? Because if you share only when you are stressed, ladies and gentlemen, it will help only half the exercise. If we don't know what you do when you are stressed, and we're not here to judge or criticize, we can't close the loop, right? We have one part. When people put me under pressure, if I missed you, please just type again. And sorry, I'm stressed when trying to keep track of all. When I have multiple tasks, but my executive dysfunction and anxiety prevents me from doing what I want to do. Okay, what do you do when this happens, when you experience that? Yes, afraid to die. Yeah, uh, legit fear, Bruno. When price is moving into my points of interest, but I have not had a chance to do my analysis and preparation.
So it's FOMO.
Okay, beautiful. Then I feel the need to hop in a trade before I fully diagnose the market. Beautiful. So here we have the whole. So when price is moving into my points of interest, but I haven't had a chance to do my analysis and preparation,
What do you
then
do?
I feel
Feel the need? Yeah.
the rush, the need to hop in a trade before I fully diagnose the market. This is FOMO, basically.
Yeah.
This is FOMO. So what we did here is identifying this. So you're human and you're a master of your execution. So once you identify that, okay, price is moving, I'm not prepared enough. Like, for example, myself, I need half an hour at least clean in front of the charts before executing. If I don't have that golden rule, I don't click. I wait for this 30 minutes full to be elapsed. And so basically, you can tell yourself, okay, once I'm aware of that, instead of rushing into a trade, I just hands off. And perhaps you will not feel FOMO, you will not feel FOMO, but you will feel perhaps if the trade would go in the direction you would have chosen, not most of the time, you will think, okay, I regret not taking the trade. But with time, you will build the discipline of not regretting and not having this FOMO. So this precisely shows you that you make this choice. Okay, remember, we cannot always control the first impulse, the first thought, but we can always redirect, control, regulate the second one, always.
So that comes
And
back
this,
to PIM, right? Perception,
exactly,
intention, manner of thought. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, exactly. And now you have a different perception. So you can act upon it.
Mhm.
Uh, I get stressed, so I entered. I missed something. I enter trades without a proper analysis and blow the account and start cursing. Oh, it's exactly the same. So perhaps T21 curses as well, but yeah. So you can see the pattern. So for you, it's the same. You should do the proper analysis. I get stressed with myself if I do things that hold me back from aims and goals. I end up feeling frustrated with myself and often block it out until I'm ready to deal with it properly. Okay, so here you have a stressful event that you identified. That is great. But then this event generates frustration, and this frustration blocks you out from thinking you can go forward. And it makes you think you are regressing, perhaps you are like at least steady or lowering, reducing. So basically, so my advice, Shai, would be to identify how often you experience that, how like perhaps multiple times a day, perhaps a couple times a week, perhaps once a month, identify how often how frequent these events occur, and then try to focus through our teachings on the frustration part. Why, like, what is the source of this frustration? You have a fear and a need, most probably. What is this fear you are feeding, and what is this need you are chasing? Once you identify both, or at least one of them, I bet you can move forward. Hope it helped. Um,
Lovely. Okay,
when
so
I,
I hate to
yeah, very,
break up the party, but
yeah,
yeah, at some point we could sit here and talk like forever. But yes, we have been here for a couple of hours now, I'm almost afraid we're going to bleed into the main broadcast. Right. But like I said, I would love to just stay here and, chat neuropsychology, trading all day long. But we're going to leave some stuff for next week as well. Hopefully, everybody found this helpful. I certainly found quite a uh, few things that maybe I didn't know about stress that I can use going forward. And Jerome, any final comments and suggestions on how people can approach maybe the following week? Maybe a task you can
Well,
give them, homework.
thank you for your attention first and for this opportunity and your love. The task would be live well, just carpe diem, live the present moment. Um, Try to be aware about one pleasant and one unpleasant event a week, a day, whatever. If you can do this at least once a week, it could be great. And try to pay attention to what happens in your body, in your thinking, in your emotion, and trade well. Always trade for tomorrow. Remember, a loss doesn't define you, but tomorrow does. So trade well.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jerome. All right, we're going to see you again next week for Neuro Wednesdays, but you will see me a little bit more today and tomorrow as well. I think I'm on Friday too. Anyways, this concludes the Neuro Wednesdays with myself. I'm Marcus Stoker D. This is Dr. Jerome. Thank you so much for hanging with us. This has been the Euro Trade. We will see you again very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. Let's go.